Hello and welcome to the Bold Leadership Stories Show, where we talk about the experiences shaping exceptional lives. And today I have an exceptional life that we're talking with here, chatting with Kelly A. Bennett, Esquire. She's a partner and managing attorney at Bennett and Bennett Law. How are you today, Kelly?
I'm great. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, let me introduce Kelly a little bit. This is like I had to think about this, and it's no way to really get into detail. So we're just going to chat about some specific things. But let me give you a quick rundown of Kelly's experience. She is not only a managing attorney and partner at Bennett and Bennett Law, a very successful firm here in Temecula, California, and then she's an author. She just published a new book, right?
Yeah, actually, it came out it came out in the COVID
Okay.
season. Yeah,
Okay.
so
So
about
it's fairly
2020.
recent.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
good. And then you're a speaker. You're a podcaster. I see you've got a very successful podcast that's going on. It looks real exciting. And then a coach, a trainer, a politician. You're a former mayor of Temecula
Murrieta.
or Murrieta. Okay.
Yep,
Thank you
yeah.
for correcting that. And then you're also a wife and a mom. Yep. How many kids do you have?
I have two daughters,
Two
Rachel and
daughters.
Chloe, and they're 33 and 31.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's about mine too. I've got two daughters myself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. And then you're also a surfer. You picked up surfing later in life. I saw that
Yep,
it was like age 42 or something. So
yep.
that's a whole story. And then you interviewed Dr. Condoleezza Rice on
Yes.
stage with over 800 people in attendance. I bet
Yep.
that was
Yeah.
exciting.
It was super fun. That was and I'll correct you for a moment. I'm a recovering politician.
Okay. All right.
So I'm not in politics anymore.
I respect anybody that steps into that arena. I tell you what,
Yeah, it's a great service arena, especially local politics. But when you serve on a city council, all the city councils have committees and they serve on regional bodies as well. And that's
Mhm.
where you've got all the cities working together. So there's a regional body called the Western Riverside Council of Governments, which is all the county board of supervisors and 16 cities, the western cities in Riverside County, because there's another, what we call them COGS, Council of Governments, out in the desert area, because as you know, Riverside County is the third largest county in the state of California. So 9,500 square miles or so, it's a big county. So anyway, WRCOG is what we call it. And that regional body serves to have all the cities and the county work together to improve life and deal with very significant issues for the region, not just in each city's, local locality. So I
Mhm.
have the privilege of serving and representing the city of Murrieta on that body. And then I became the chair of the Western Riverside Council of Governments. And so we had a big event. There's a large event every year, and we decided to really bump it up as far as the guests. And Dr. Rice was so kind as to accept the invitation. And that was really a great experience at that huge event. It was out at Morongo. And I got to ask her a lot about Homeland Security. And, that's a brand new division. At the time of 9/11, there was no Department of Homeland Security. And it
Mhm.
came about because of 9/11. And so getting to ask her about what happened on 9/11 and the policies that rolled out from that and some leadership issues as well, because she was professor at Stanford at the time of this interview. So that
Okay.
was really a treat. What a powerhouse and what a gracious, smart business leader and government leader she is. Oh, Dr.
Mm.
Rice. Anyway, so that was
Yeah. Well, I've always respected her and her work and just the way she lives her life and just very talented lady.
Yes, phenomenal role model. Phenomenal. Yeah.
Have you been able to keep in touch with her?
No, not really,
Not really?
because she's
Okay.
here on
Yeah.
that. She's got a lot going on.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself now? With all of these plates you've got spinning right now, because you're promoting your book and you're speaking and you've got your podcast and you're doing oh, by the way, I'm a managing attorney at the law firm. What's the, how are you keeping all that together?
Well, I don't keep everything together, that's for sure. And that's kind of a myth in our culture. But I really have two main paths. One is with the law practice. My husband and I started that practice years and years ago. We've both been practicing over 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really one of the most special things about our business is to watch and see our children grow up and become successful business women. Mm-hmm. And my older daughter, Rachel, is the supervising attorney of our family law division with the firm. And so we get to work with our family. I mean, that is such a huge blessing, and we don't kill each other, which is another blessing. We figured that out,
Yeah.
So she carries a lot of the weight, and I still represent clients and work on some cases, although I've pared that back. I don't darken the door of the court very often, only when we have super complex matters. In fact, I will tell you, this was such a joy. Once in a blue moon, Rachel and I will try a case together. And it's really the bigger complex matters, right?
I'm going to share your website with the three of you guys on there.
There we are.
Yeah. So you tell me about that experience working with your daughter trial on a case.
On trials, yeah. So over the years, when Rachel first got out of law school, and she came under our wing to, you don't know anything about how to practice law when you get out of law school. So
well, yeah, it's the same thing with any of those certifications. I got my real estate license, and there's no sales in there.
Right. No, heavens no. It's well, Pepperdine's a great school, and it's very well rounded. Yeah. And they did a great job in things like trial practice and mediation and dispute resolution, practicums and things of that nature. But truly, until you get in there and do it, you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So one of the ways, and she wanted to be a litigator like I was. Right. And so one of the ways I taught her how to really master the art of trial work was to come alongside me. And so we began trying cases where she would second chair. Well, here we are almost 7 years later. Hard to believe. She's been practicing for quite a while. And so she's out there trying cases all day long, all by herself. So now when we get really big cases, and these are like, if you see, just imagine any of the big cases you've seen on TV recently, you'll notice there's multiple attorneys when they have tons of exhibits and it's just too much for one person to handle. That's when we'll do that together. So January 3rd, we started a very complex case that we were 2.5 years in preparation for that trial. And that trial ended on Valentine's Day is when I delivered the closing argument on that case. And it was a family law case. So you don't see those very often, but it was a very complicated fraud case, very serious issues. And it's so fun to go day after day after day and try these cases together and, kind of pinch hit for each other. So I'd take a witness, she'd take a witness, and she'd take a section of the case and I'd take a section. And it's just so fun. And it's really fun to see the judges because they get a kick out of it, you can tell. So here's my daughter in there. So we get to do that. But I don't manage all of that. I don't do, 80 hours a week of litigation anymore like I used to. I pulled back into more of a managing role. And like I said, I do carry a few, direct client cases, but that's very much pared down. And I leave the rest of that to the other attorneys. I manage the ship and set the vision and direction. Mm-hmm. So within the law firm, the other thing that's happening is you'll probably see in the background material we sent over, I've had 30 years of experience as a mediator as well.
Right. Yeah.
And at this point, in this point in my career, I've handled as a mediator over 1,000 cases. So we're pretty good at settling cases. We know how to settle cases.
So
And
mediation is where when you, instead of it, this is like pre-trial. You try to resolve it before the trial starts.
right, or it can even be pre-suit, right? Pre-lawsuit. So mediation
Okay.
is, instead of acting as an attorney, we're an advocate for the client. We're, the gladiator, if you will, going out and arguing the case for them and running the case for them.
Okay.
As a mediator, you're Switzerland. So I always tell the parties in mediation, they come in and we sit down and I'm like, look, I can't give you legal advice. I can give you information. So I can tell you what the law says. I can give you examples of what we've seen. We can tell you how certain judges approach things. But if you said to me, okay, I think we've got a deal and I agree to this and she agrees to that or whatever it is, should I take the deal? I'm going to say to you, I can't give you legal advice. I'm going to send you out before you sign a settlement agreement and recommend that you get the advice of an attorney to review it for an hour. Make sure you understand it and you're cool with it. And then we'll settle. But I can't, because then I'd be advocating for you. So we're Switzerland there. But what we're doing is we're helping people have a productive conversation and showing them the path to settlement, because they try to talk to each other and it's not working. They're speaking foreign languages and we're the great translators. And so we help them navigate all the emotions, all the upset, the hard issues, what the law says, and come to an agreement outside of court. Because what happens right now is, and I've done this before I did family law, which is our firm now is limited to family law and estate planning.
Okay.
So before, and my husband does the estate planning. Before I did family law, I came up in Orange County and we moved out to the Temecula Murrieta area in 2003. It's been a while. But I've been practicing law about 10 years in Orange County. I was a business, real estate, and construction defect litigator. So I was in and out of the court system, but not on the family law side, right? So I settled a lot of cases, business cases and real estate cases, things of that nature as a mediator. And then we came over to the dark side of family law, and we say the dark side because it's very, a lot of lawyers don't like it because there's such high emotions. And we go to law school to, do the sophisticated legal issues, right? Not handle all this emotional stuff. I can't tell you how many lawyers would come to me and go, please settle this case for us. Please. We can't stand it. They're driving us crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that's just this is the thing, is we're talking about leadership and this goes right into it.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your strengths and knowing where to direct them. One of my strengths is high emotional IQ, if you will, or EQ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we can handle the technical and understand the law, and we've mastered the application of it and mastery of the advocacy. But also there is a high emotional quotient that happens. And that's really good in the family law arena. So that's why we tend to have a lot of complex family law cases, because we can do the high level technical, but we can really handle the emotional and help people navigate that. So that's mediation, as you can imagine, is really a great area to practice in. So I help
it sounds like fun. Really.
It is. And it's rewarding because it keeps them out of the court. Because the courthouse is a dead end. I'm just going to tell you right now. I tell every client, yep, I can be your junkyard dog. Our attorneys can be your bulldogs out there in court. We love the courtroom. That's fun for us. That's our theater, if you will. Right. But it's not good for you, because every case you take to the bench, one, you're asking the government to decide your business. And why should the government decide what's best for you and your family? I mean, they're there for a reason, for people who just can't get it together, right? And they'll do it. Yeah. The judges don't like it either, because they don't know your children. They don't know what your financial life and what your wherewithal is. They don't know all that. And so they don't like it. They want people to, take their lives back and decide on, but when they can't, that's what the judges are there for. So one, you don't want the government in your business. And two, every judge is a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have the best case in the world. And we have very talented judges on the bench for the most part.
With family law, you don't have jury trial, right? It's just a judge?
You don't. It's typically a bench trial. We have the right to a jury trial. People don't realize that in family law. Do we use it? I haven't seen it yet. Okay. It can be done. So you can, but 99% of the time you don't want a jury. No. Anyway.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just more people, more complex. Right?
Well, and a jury is even a bigger crapshoot, I would tell you.
Yeah.
Because the concept is okay. I think it should be limited to certain cases. And I know that might be, constitutional blasphemy, be that as it may. But we have the idea of jury, a jury of your peers. They haven't gone to law school. We're expecting them in business cases, especially, and even in family law cases, we would be expecting them to consume, understand, and then apply some very technical theories of the law that we've gone to school to figure out, and some of us still don't have it figured out. So it's even an even bigger crapshoot most of the time with a jury. So that's why mediation is a great avenue. And I hung up my cleats for the last couple of years on mediation. And then we've decided to enter the arena again. And this time, my daughter Rachel and I are rebuilding a mediation practice. So she's a certified family law specialist, which is no easy feat.
So did she come about the emotional, the EQ naturally? Because I know from experience, I used to work with companies up in the Bay Area that were, with people that graduated from MIT, Berkeley, Stanford, really intelligent people, zero people skills.
Right. Yeah.
So
those are, and I'm going to give you a secret for your audience. If you're negotiating with somebody who, we can't broad brush all engineers and doctors and scientists, right? But the sciences tend to be where people who have super linear thinking, it attracts them. And so, those people who they have to know every detail of the trip, or they're not comfortable going every step of the way, or every detail of how, and they can come off as control freaks, by the way. They're not all control freaks. It's just the way their brains think. And it's right or it's wrong. It's black or it's white. And what you'll hear from some folks who have that, and then it's a skill set, but that kind of disposition in negotiations or when they're in conflict, it's the principle of the thing. It's the principle of, so when you're trying to help somebody resolve a dispute who we call them green, it's kind of, that's under one of the personality tests. But when they kind of think that way, you will never convince them to change their mind, or that the right and wrong is not right and wrong. Our approach, or my approach as a mediator, has been very effective over the years, and it is in negotiation too, is when somebody comes back to you and says, I'm not going to agree to that because it's the principle of the thing, then I'll just go, okay, time out.
Yeah.
Let's examine the principle. What is the principle? Well, he's not going to cheat anybody else again like he cheated me. I'm not letting him off the hook. Okay, so what's it going to cost you to not let him off the hook? Blah, blah, blah. We talked about all of that, and time and money and disruption to your business, or whatever it is that's happening there. Yeah. And my point is, with folks like that, you have to expand the principle for them. So if the principle is, I'm not going to let them off the hook because it's not right that they do that to other people, then I will go in and say something like, so is it okay then for you to stand on the principle of the thing as you've defined it? Is it okay then for it to take away from your time with your wife? Is it okay then for you to compromise the income or the revenue for your business and profitability because you're too busy bleeding out over here and not being able to tend the shop? How about the time with your children? Well, no, so isn't the principle of the thing a little bit bigger?
Okay.
Does this making sense
Yeah,
to you?
absolutely. It's a good strategy because you're
Right.
getting them to kind of recalibrate the thinking on the importance of that, one principle that they were fixated on. It's like, I'm going to get revenge on
Right. And
this
it's like, what's
person. And
behind it? Ask
it,
the question. So that's a
yes. What's
mediation
it going to
and a
cost you to get
negotiation
that
tool.
done? Yeah.
So anyway, so in the law firm, that's what we're doing is we're kind of rebranding and rebuilding. I'm stepping back to the mediation arena. I'm bringing Rachel in with me, so we're co-mediating cases
Okay.
together.
That's
So
exciting.
and yeah, it's exciting. And what this looks like is, and here's the why behind the mediation, right?
Okay.
And this will apply in non-family cases as well, but in family cases, it is for the average 2 kids, a dog, a couple of cars, maybe a vacation rental and a home, and a 401k or two. You
Right.
want to get into it on a divorce and get ugly and mess around at the court, $50,000 in 2 years minimum. It's more, and the more we get a little more contentious, you're going to be hitting the 100 grand easy. How
That
about if,
puts a dent in the equity of the of your 30-year ownership of a house. Well, actually, not ownership. You've been paying a mortgage on it. You might have some
right,
equity there, but you're
right,
take a quarter of that. Boom.
right. And then you have several years of your life consumed. And then
Right.
the collateral damage to your family, your kids, your finances, all the junk. What happens if you can come in to 2 seasoned mediators, lay out $10,000 and be done in a month?
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. So we hate seeing what's happening to families in our valley when
Yeah,
they
I've
just
got some experience with people going through divorces through the courts here, and um, it's not pretty.
no, and our court doesn't have room. There's no room at the inn. The judges, it burns them out, it really
Yeah.
does. They're carrying, every time we look at the statistics for the last 10 years, it's been about the same. Each judge is carrying between 1,300 to 1,700 cases on active on
What?
their dockets per judge. Yes, because we are 76 judges short in the county of Riverside.
That's
So
amazing.
people don't realize. So when you get worked up about, when things start going sideways on the family side, you really have to understand the arena you're playing in.
Sure.
And
Well,
it's just,
that's why it's good to have uh, a team like yours in the Temecula Valley that we can go to. That's knowledgeable and knows how to get that done. And you're
yeah,
advocating to make things better and easier for the families. I love that.
right, right. And it's just a time consuming, costly process. And it's not designed to really, like I said, you don't want the government deciding your business because they'll take a shot in the dark at it. So that's the
Yeah.
law practice and how we manage that.
Uh-huh.
Then the other side, on the coaching side, so you probably stumbled on the other website, which is Kelly
Oh
Bennett.
yeah. Yeah. Let me bring that up. I did a little bit of research.
Like,
We've
what the
got,
heck is this?
yeah, well, you've got I've got your book up, and then um, I have your coaching. I'll pull that up right now. So
So while you're doing that,
there we go.
so where
Is that the
that
right
came
one?
from, yeah, that looks like it's a podcast. That's the
Yeah,
podcast.
oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, it's kellybennettesq.com. So that platform came out of between being on city council, mayor, and government. I got to work with amazing leaders in the community. And
Mhm.
then that melding of that and the law, I have such a heart for women business leaders and women business owners. And what I noticed was a lot of women are so talented, but they get a little bit off in the ditch and don't quite achieve what they set out to do. And a
Okay.
lot of times, and I think this applies really to any business owner, we'll get out there and start our business and we get bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, right? We're excited, we're raring to go. And
Is
then a
that the
few
Success
years,
Lab?
Yes, that's an online program that we're actually launching summertime this year. I've taught the Success Lab, and now we're taking it to a full-blown course. So that'll be coming out. That's a new offering coming out. But what we saw is that people forget why they started their business, and they are just kind of spinning and drifting out there. And all of a sudden they feel like they're failures. They don't have any focus and direction. So it's all about the intention-driven business. And when you have intention and you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you have all those tools to keep on track, that's where the joy and the success comes. But sometimes people kind of get lost in the chaos, right?
Yes. Oh, very easily. And the squirrels, those squirrels keep popping up.
The squirrels.
Yes. Staying on track. Squirrel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So your program helps them. Now, where at what stage of the business should they contact you for to get kind of enrolled and
and jump into the
gain access to your help?
I would tell you that it's really for any phase of the business.
Okay.
It's really great if you're thinking about starting a business and you've never done it before. That's like beautiful, because in the Success Lab, it's 22 video lessons on all the areas of business, including, I could talk about the beautiful budget, finance, the stuff that we all, used to roll our eyes at, all of it. It's interesting. It's fun. It's about how to build and hire properly and a great team to deliver for, it's the whole enchilada. So if you're at the very beginning of a business, that's a great course. If you've lost your way, like what we were just talking about, you'll see on that website if you scroll down on the homepage, I've developed a short free mini course called Reignite. And it's a 4-video free mini course. And if somebody has just kind of lost their passion for their business and it's like, why am I doing this? I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. I'm not excited about my business. That's a great place to start. It's kind of an intro to the Success Lab. And it just helps you kind of sit down for a minute and start to ask the fundamental questions.
So is that the fall in love with your business all over again?
Yeah. Where's the Reignite?
Yeah. That's really cool. Let me pull that up.
Yeah. So really that's what that coaching platform is designed for, is to, let's see. No, go back to the home. Are you on the home page?
I'm not. Hang on, let me go back.
Let's see. Oh, you're on the Success Lab. Go over to where it says Kelly Bennett Esquire. Yeah, there you go. Okay, now scroll down that page.
Oh, okay.
Are we on? No, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see. Okay, let's go to the bottom where the logo is, or at the top. Oh, you're on the podcast page. That's what's happening. See there? Yeah, get there. Yeah. That should take you to the home page. Okay, scroll down. There we go. Okay, see, right? Keep going. Where'd the team put it? Keep going. Right there.
There's Reignite.
Right here. Scroll up a little bit. Scroll up. There, Reignite. 4 critical steps to rekindle your passion and build a business you love. So you can go
so that's on kellybennettesquire.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what this platform is all about, is really helping business owners, one, get very intentional about everything, not just your business, but your entire life, because you're not going to get a lot of passion or excitement out of your life if you're just drifting along. And unfortunately, that's what's happening to us as a culture. With so much competing for attention, how much time do we spend scrolling through TikTok, Facebook, Instagram? I mean, I do it too.
Oh, I looked at some stats on that. It's insane. We spend like trillions of hours a year as a population just scrolling through junk
Yes.
and not remembering any of it.
Yeah.
How many, it's like, I used to
It's
work
like
as an engineer in manufacturing. We look at, man hours of productivity and getting the most out of those man hours when you're designing a process of, to produce something.
you're
And
right.
it just trillions of hours. How much the cost is insane.
It's insane. I always have this image of scrolling and then like this flood of your brain is just pouring out of your ear because
Yeah. All this green
what it
goo.
is. Right. But it promotes a mindset of just drifting because people are just tired all the time.
Yeah.
So this is about really getting intentional. And how do you get intentional? Planning is a huge thing, it's just, it's interesting. The other thing is I love to publicly speak, but talking particularly on topics of empowerment and what that means is, so you'll see some of that in there. And so I wrote the book Victim. I know I'm jumping around,
Yeah.
but I'm
Well,
that's
okay. I love your book title. I'm gonna pull that up.
So both the book, which is called Victim Is Not Your Name, and
where did that title come from?
So that came from, and I will tell you, I didn't write the book to write a book and make money on a book. And I think
nobody does anymore. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're not going to make any money selling a book for $6 or whatever.
Right.
It's getting the message out and helping people get started on a solution.
And this is the thing about leadership. When people say, oh, I want to do what you do. Sometimes we have young attorneys that'll say that. And I'm always reminded of one of my favorite leadership experts is John Maxwell, who I'm sure
okay.
Listeners,
that's great.
John.
I really love his
John
stuff
Maxwell,
too.
He's famous for telling a story at some event, and he was, doing his thing, speaking. And some young fellow came up to him and he said, I want to do what you do. And in pure Maxwell fashion, he turns to him and he says, that's great, but are you willing to do what I did in order to do what I do? And it's about, because it's not an overnight thing, right? But writing a book, doing a podcast, those are tools to serve people.
Right.
And that to me is the number one lesson of leadership. If you want to be a great leader, start with how can I help? And serve other people. Not I got to claw my way and grind my way to the top. Or you can do that and you'll find some success. But I wrote a book and it's called Victim Is Not Your Name because I saw so many people going through the legal system feeling like victims. And we do a fair amount of domestic violence work and get protective orders in the arena of domestic violence for both men and women. It's happening on both sides.
Well, I looked at some of I used to live in Orange County too. And I looked for whatever one reason or another, I can't remember why, but the women's shelter for, they're trying to escape their husbands who are beating them up.
Yep.
And in Orange County, one of the most affluent places on the planet.
Okay. So this is
staggering.
You have brought up a fantastic fact. And I used to serve on the board of Safe Alternatives for Everyone, which is the premier domestic violence prevention agency here in the Valley. If you don't know them, you need to know them. They're an amazing group, and both Temecula PD and Murrieta PD are involved as well, and community leaders in supporting Safe and the work they do. So they've got some shelters out here as well, and they walk victims and their children through the process, and and when necessary they'll push them out to get representation from the family law firms. But what people don't realize is domestic violence is an equal opportunity evil in our society. It crosses every cultural, every socioeconomic line. It happens in the most elite of the elite, wealthiest families. It happens in the poorest of poor families. It is an illness that is happening. And there are people walking among us that are our colleagues in the business community that you would be surprised to know what kind of horrible things have been going on in their homes behind closed doors. It happens across the board. So it's such an important area, and we feel very privileged to serve in that area because there's the technical law over here, but then there's how do you process that as a mom or a dad who's gone through it, and your children 9 times out of 10, absolutely, if they haven't been in the midst of it, they know what's happening. This is a generational evil. So what we're trying to do is disrupt the pattern. But there's a way of thinking that happens there. So this book wasn't just written for domestic violence victims, but I'm using that as an example of people who get into a habit of, for me, or they accept the label that I'm a victim. And yes, you technically can have been a victim of a bad thing happening in your life. We're not, in any way diminishing the importance and significance. Is when you decide to be defined by that. And when you find your identity in that, and it can sneak up on you, especially if you've been a victim of some very bad circumstances over a prolonged period of time, that can become your identity. And so I wrote this book for people. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It can be cancer. It can be domestic violence, just a bad divorce. It can be a parent abandoning you, a business colleague, stealing all your money, whatever. But it's about tools for managing what has happened and moving, not just get over it, move on. That's not the message. It's real tools and examining, let's go back and remember who you really are. Because that's not you. You're not identified by the things that happen. And here's some tools for processing it and moving through it. And I think the biggest message out of that book is, I'm a woman of faith, and I truly believe that God has given us all an assignment. And those assignments change as we get older, right? Over time. Your job is to find out what the next assignment is. Okay. That's your job, because that's where life and joy and fulfillment is. And Viktor Frankl, we talked about him a lot in the book. He was the famous psychiatrist that was at Auschwitz. And he talked very much about, here are the victims of Auschwitz who survived and what their mindset was. And here are the ones who we knew were not going to survive. And the ones that were not going to survive were the ones that kept their minds occupied with the past and all they had lost. And so that kind of perpetuated a victim mentality, if you will. Sure. The ones who had the best chance of surviving were those who looked in every moment and said, what is my assignment here? And what is my assignment in the next 4 or 5 years? And those were the ones who made it through. I found that very fascinating. And it's true. It's true. So if we can get our minds good. So there's a lot of tools that are brought to bear. And then my favorite part of that book is the chapter on forgiveness. What it is, what it isn't, and how you do it.
What is forgiveness for you?
Forgiveness. I think a lot of people have heard this by now, that forgiveness is a tool that's designed for you. It's a gift to you, not to the offender. It can be a gift to the offender, no doubt. But it is you deciding to not allow the bitterness and the anger and the fear and the harm that has happened to you to define you and occupy your mind. It is the ability to say, whether you say it to the person or not, I'm not going to allow that to have any power over me. I wish you well. I hope you can be a whole person. I'm going to go on and be a whole person, but I'm not going to live in that place. I'm going to stop drinking the bitterness drink, right? And so whenever I teach on forgiveness and do speaking on forgiveness, I'll often use a prop, which is a box, is the banker's box, and it's all wrapped like a beautiful Christmas gift. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
pick it up and I'll ask, Jim, come on up here. We're going to talk about forgiveness. And I want you to, can you just hold the box for me? And Jim will say, yes, I'll hold the box for you. And I'll hand him the box. Well, what's in the box is about 7 or 8 bricks. So it's this beautiful box and it's okay. You're kind of like, okay, it's a little heavy, right? And then I'm talking to the audience about how forgiveness is truly a gift. And that's why in scripture, when one of the, was it Peter or Matt, somebody asked Jesus, how many times do I have to forgive these jerks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How many times? And he says
70
70
times
times
7.
7.
Yep.
70 times 7. He didn't really mean the number. What he's saying is as long as it takes.
Right.
Why? Because it's a gift to you and it releases you to go forward and stop looking at the past and embrace what you've got. So now I've got Jim standing here. I'm talking about all this stuff and you're holding the present, right?
It's
And after
getting heavy.
a couple minutes, it's getting heavy and I see the wiggling start to go on. And, especially if you haven't been working out, you're in trouble. And pretty soon I'll turn and I'll say, would you like to hand off that gift to somebody else? Yes. Right. Audience as heavy as could be. You hand it off and it's like we watch the relief that happens. And that is a beautiful example or illustration of what forgiveness is. It's for you. It's for you. Because when you don't master forgiveness, it consumes you and you become this person that you were never meant to be. So forgiveness.
That's beautiful. That's an exquisite way of bringing that whole idea to bear. I've tried to describe that at times, but you've done an excellent job of illustrating it.
Oh, thank you.
So how do people respond to that? What do people say to you when they hear that story and experience that?
They will often say, I've never heard it that way. I didn't think about it that way. I thought forgiveness was, and you know what I'm going to say, right? What did our parents tell us? Forgive and forget.
Forgive and forget.
Right. And that's the other piece of it. And I train that. It's not about, we're not told to forget.
No.
In fact, if you're wise, you won't forget that fact about that person. You will hope they will do something to rehabilitate their behavior, right? But you will proceed with caution. It doesn't mean you just, if somebody embezzles $100,000 from you, you're not going to let them still have access to the bank books, right? Because that wouldn't be prudent. Yeah. You may not be physically angry with them anymore. You will forgive to the point where you can really wish them well in life. But you're not going to give them access to the bank books. So we're not supposed to forget. We're supposed to be wise and file away what we know. It's just, I had a gal who had came to me and interviewed for a job. And at the end of the interview for the law firm, and she revealed that she had had some severe drug addictions and then had embezzled from an employer years prior. So this is at the end of this long interview, right?
Wow.
But she had gone to rehab and she had actually been incarcerated for a while, which is poor man's detox from the government. But she, was committed to her sobriety and she had been successful and had been sober for quite a long time. And she was a Christian lady. And I had to say to her, I must tell you, I'm so happy you're on that path. But with what we do here, it would be irresponsible for me to put you into that position. I cannot do it. And that's just a part of those life lessons those are consequences of this. But you can still be loving towards somebody, not angry. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
Remembering piece of it.
Yeah. So that's all part of being human. We've all got things that we have done that probably shouldn't have done.
Right.
And there's consequences to everything. Yeah. Well, Kelly, our time is about up.
Boy, that went fast. Didn't we just say hello?
It just goes so quick. I really appreciate I've got one more question though. You got time for one more?
Sure.
Yeah. It's taking a look at your whole life. Picture your whole life. And would like to get an idea of the one decision that you made, one leadership decision that you made that was the boldest leadership decision and the consequences of that.
I don't know if I can narrow it down to one. They're bold in different ways. So may I share two?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll share two short ones. One's kind of a little controversial, putting it out into the local community, but here it goes. It is what it is. So when I became the mayor of Murrieta, I was the first, to give you some background, I was the first woman on the Murrieta City Council.
I saw that, yeah.
The first female mayor, right? And now look at the council, it's almost all women.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, when I became the mayor, we were in, this was 2010, 2009 and 10, right?
Okay.
So if you'll remember back, we had gone into a recession. Remember all the foreclosures that had started going on in 2006, sure. 2007. Murrieta it was hit the hardest across the nation. Forbes magazine reported on Murrieta.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Highest rate of foreclosures. So there was a lot of damage to the economy.
A lot of jingle mail going on.
Oh,
remember that term came. Yeah.
So as a council, we were in that position of really needing, and we were fortunate. We had wonderful, smart colleagues on the council, and we were called on really to see around corners, right? When it came to visioneering budgets, and not only just, we were afraid, all the cities were afraid of going bankrupt because of what was happening. Sure. So we safeguarded the city, made some really great decisions. It was amazing to be on that dream team of the council at the time. Hard decisions, but we were kind of feeling like our hands were tied. We couldn't do like a bunch of bold projects because everything came to a screeching halt. So we were making decisions for the future. It's not really sexy at the time. It's like, okay, well, but it's important. Groundwork. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that was happening is, in order to not have massive staff layoffs, we had to cut costs. And so when I became the mayor, it happened to be time for renegotiating one of the emergency service department's contracts.
Okay.
And
was that police, fire?
Police and fire. So it was okay. Fire. So we were negotiating the fire contracts, and those come up every number of years. And they bring in a labor negotiator, and typically we'll sometimes hire a negotiator, but it's typically the city manager and the council. It keeps coming back to the council and we give them the directives, right? So, and that happens in closed session because it's, labor stuff. Mm-hmm. We needed to really scale it back, and we wanted to save jobs. One thing that happens in emergency services is it's a system where it's very common for there's a lot of comp time and overtime that happens, and for various reasons. And it's just normal, right? Mm-hmm. But if we were to pull away from a lot of comp time, overtime, and make sure that we didn't have our firefighters pulling double and triple shifts, which isn't good anyway because they're tired, right? It compromises abilities. If we stop that and make sure that we schedule things properly and we don't allow any more of that, it's going to bring, the cost down tremendously. And so we were committed to doing that.
Okay. That sounds smart.
They are a very, and I can't say enough about Murrieta and police and fire. They're the best of the best. Murrieta has its own police and fire department. They don't contract out, and those men and women are members of our community, and they're amazing. But when you have to stand up into a system to say, we're not doing this anymore, because it's hard because people have been building their lives and their careers and their budgets on, they start to bank and count on the extra money from comp time overtime. Right. And so as a mayor, I had to write a love note that said, we are not doing this. A council asking the colleagues to back me on it. And why is that such a bold idea? Because police and fire and their unions have tremendous power when it comes to endorsements for elections. So like when you see somebody running for council, it'll say backed by police and fire. That carries a lot of weight, right?
Sure.
And it should, because those guys are concerned about the safety of the community.
Right.
But when you start messing with the money, you're not popular.
It's sticky, I imagine.
It's sticky. So in that system, it's very common for, during negotiations, some of the members of the unions to start contacting the individual council members.
Okay.
Remind them of who's behind them.
Uh-huh.
In endorsements and things of that nature, and lobbying. And I get it, you know, that's just the system. So yeah, so that wasn't, you have to sometimes, as
I'm picturing the old days of the room. I remember when my first job, and I was a co-op student in college, and I was in production, and they used to have these Monday morning meetings every morning, and they go in with their big stacks of paper, and they light cigarettes. Everyone was smoking cigarettes. Back then it was legal. And I remember those meetings, they were like pounding on the table, and the smoke would billow out from under the door.
Right?
You could hear there was just so much going on in there. And then they'd all come out and smiling.
Right.
You know?
Right. There is the gritting and the gnashing of teeth to get to the end result. Sometimes
so this
Russian style negotiation, right?
Hammer out those deals, right?
Yeah.
So sounds like that's what you had to do.
Well, it's hard because you're trying to look out for the overall good of the community. And sometimes as leaders, we just have to step into the unpopular positions. But if you do it with love and compassion, a massive backbone, okay? And you got your boundaries, you're not always going to be popular. So that was a bold, I don't know. I didn't think it was bold. It was just, I knew that whatever.
It was the right thing to do, right? It was just the right thing. When you said love note, it was that's kind of tongue in cheek, I'm thinking.
Oh yeah. I wasn't real popular when because when you put it in writing, it's like, no, I really mean it.
That goes on the record, right?
Yeah. But, we all worked it out, and Murrieta came through that economic firestorm beautifully. I mean, we were so proud of the staff and everyone, really, they did their part. So those were some rough times. And I think from leadership points of view, there's also your internal leadership of your team and your organization. And then I kind of looked at that as like outside leadership, because it wasn't my business, it was the city's business. But the other thing I did recently, we had a spectacular office in Temecula, probably the premier, most beautiful office in Southwest Riverside County. And we had about 6,200 square feet of space, and I was in a 10-year lease. And a couple of years ago, with the rumbling of, okay, how are we going to pay for COVID? How is the nation really going to come out of this? One of the things I've learned a long time ago is it really is our job as leaders of organizations to look around corners. One of my favorite authors and leadership gurus also is Keith Cunningham. And he wrote a great book called Keith Cunningham wrote a book called The Road Less Stupid.
Oh, I saw that on your Facebook. Yeah.
It's fantastic. I recommend it to everybody. And he's been the chairman of the board of multiple multi-billion-dollar organizations. And I recommend it to everyone. It's fantastic. So he really preaches, you got to look around corners. So I was looking at what was happening. Let's get real about finances. And I'm telling you, our office was ridiculously impressive. It was gorgeous, but we were 6 years into a 10-year lease, and I'm looking at the scheme of things, and I thought, you know what, we've been really blessed. We have lots of business. We've done beautifully over the years, but I sense danger here. And I started thinking about that during what we call thinking time, what Keith Cunningham calls thinking time.
So that's your intuition.
Well, yeah, and looking at, you look at the top world financial gurus, and they're like, we are all going to have a financial winter coming because it's just common sense. All this money and all this COVID relief, it has to be paid for, right? So wouldn't you know, a few months later, I get approached by the landlord. And so where we were up on the top floor of our building, third floor, and we had half of it and the other side was empty. And we got approached, and they had a hard time leasing the whole floor or the other half of the floor. And they said, you know, Kelly, we've been approached by another tenant that wants to enter into a 10-year lease, but they want the whole floor. I said, okay. And we had designed it. It was drop dead gorgeous. And they said, what would it be worth for you to move? And I'm like, so now that's challenging all the, you know, the outside trappings, because people walk inside our firm and they're like, whoa, this place is unbelievable, you know. And so the mental game of it's pride, right?
Yeah.
And long story short, we were able to come to an agreement that turned out to be a very lucrative agreement for us. And we relocated to a smaller.
So what did you had to kind of swallow your pride a little bit, or was that
well,
just
yeah,
like
it was like working through the whole, it's like, no, Kelly, people don't come to you because you have this drop dead gorgeous prestigious office. They come to you because you're damn good lawyers. Right?
Right.
And you can still be damn good lawyers and in a beautiful space without paying out this kind of money that you're laying out. Because I was laying out a lot. We cut our rent by 2/3.
Wow.
2/3. And
so was that decision popular inside the company or no?
You know, it was interesting because we had a couple of employees leave in the midst of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's change. So what does, and when you think, oh, these people won't be bothered by change, it's funny to watch. You never know. So you know that there's always this danger of it. But if it's the right thing to do for the business and it shores up the business against this, one of the seminars I give is on surviving the financial winter, right? And thriving in it. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions, and you do the right things to do to get your team on board, but you're always going to have one or two fallout from it. Whatever, it happens. But that was a bold, because, you know, attorneys, we all worry about what all the other colleagues in the legal community, what do they think of us? What are they? And sure enough, a judge friend of mine said, hey, I just heard a rumor that you guys got kicked out of your office. I said,
somebody.
If you saw the deal I got out of that, you'd probably tell me how stupid I would have been to pass up that deal, because it was, they paid a lot of money to get us out, right? So
awesome.
So that's a bold leadership move in my book, because you have to fight your internal, you know, all these limiting beliefs, if you will. It's been fantastic.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing. I got 2 stories. That's fantastic.
You got 2 stories. I told you I couldn't say my name in 100 words or less.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for spending some time on the show today. I have so many more questions for you, but it was wonderful. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been a privilege. So, yeah.
We'll talk to you again soon.
All righty. Signing off.